What is democracy? Why democracy? Hi friends, do you know the meaning of democracy? The word democracy means rule by the people. It comes from two Greek words, demos, which means people, and kratos, which means rule. Thus, democracy is a form of government in which the people govern themselves either directly or through representatives they elect for the purpose. Do you know that? Our own country is a democratic republic. The president is our elected head of state. The form of government in our country is representative democracy. The most famous definition of democracy given by the President Abraham Lincoln of the USA in 1860s, he defined democracy as government of the people, by the people, for the people. Interesting fact about Abraham Lincoln. The Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809 and died April 15, 1865 at the age of 56. He was the tallest USA president of 6 feet 4 inches. Lincoln's home state was Illinois. His birth mother died from milk sickness, and after that, his father remarried a widow. Abraham was very close to his stepmother. His wife was called Mary Todd Lincoln, who was brought up into a very wealthy family. Mary's parents disagreed with their marriage because Abraham had a poor background. Abraham had 4 children: Robert Todd Lincoln, Edward Lincoln, Willie Lincoln, and Tad Lincoln. Only Robert Todd Lincoln survived into adulthood. Key features in the emergence of democracy in modern societies. The emergence of modern democracy is linked with Europe. The Glorious Revolution of the 17th century in England and the French Revolution of the 18th century in France greatly contributed to its development. The Glorious Revolution laid the foundation of the first democratic principle of the rule of law. Earlier, it was believed that the king's wishes were the law. The people protested against this principle, and by dethroning their king in 1688 and by passing the Bill of Rights, they established the idea that the country should be ruled by laws passed by the people or the parliament and not by the French people through the French Revolution, once again by executing their King Louis XVI, emphasized that the country should be ruled by laws passed by the people. Thus, the rule of law was the first important step towards the establishment of a democratic government. These great revolutions also gave birth to another idea which further strengthened the roots of democracy. It was the idea of accountability or responsibility, which meant that the government must be responsible to the people who had the right to vote and who were known as electorate. But initially, the numbers of such electorates was very limited and small. Only a small numbers of moneyed people would cast their vote in the elections. So, the democratic government thus established was imperfect. The middle and poor classes fought against this injustice. After a long struggle, the right to vote, which is called franchise or suffrage, was slowly and steadily extended to all. But still there was a flaw. The franchise or right to vote was not extended to women. The struggle for this continued, and ultimately the women also got the right to vote like men. When the right to vote is given to every adult in a country, it is called universal adult franchise. Later on, in the 19th and the 20th century, the idea of democracy further developed in new directions. Soon, it was felt that the right to equality established in democracy should not be restricted to the political field only, rather, it should be extended to the economic and social life of the people as well. Thus, the idea of democracy developed slowly but steadily. The first step was the establishment of the rule of law. The second step was the establishment of the principle of accountability or responsibility. The third step was the development of the idea of adult franchise. The fourth step was the establishment of the idea for political equality extended to economic equality. Different systems of power that exist in the world today. Democracy is not the only system of government. There are some other important systems of government as well, such as monarchy, dictatorship, and theocracy. Monarchy. In this form of government, a monarch has absolute power and the power to rule for life. Monarchy is generally hereditary. When the monarch dies, the eldest child, usually the eldest son of the monarch, automatically becomes the next ruler. In a monarchy, the monarch alone decides how much freedom to give to the people. In a constitutional monarchy, however, the monarch shares power with the people. Dictatorship. In this form of government, the power to rule rests with one person or a small group of people. Such power is often obtained forcibly. A dictator usually takes away much of the people's freedom. Those who dare to criticize the government are severely punished. Theocracy. Theocracy is a religious system of government where religious leaders hold power. Members of the majority religion make up the parliament and the government. Civil laws are made to conform to the religious teachings of the majority religion. But a change has been observed recently. Some countries today combine the elements of theocracy and democracy. Chief features of the parliament and presidential. We can understand the chief features of the parliamentary and presidential forms of government by their comparison, which is as parliamentary form of government. Under it, president is the nominal head. Real head of the government is the prime minister. Presidential form of government. Under it, president is both the nominal and the real head. There is no prime minister. Parliamentary form of government. The president is not elected directly by the people. Presidential form of government. The president is elected directly by the people. Parliamentary form of government. The executive or the council of ministers is a part of the legislature or parliament, as all of them are also the members of the parliament. Presidential form of government. The executive is not a part of the legislature. The president and his secretaries are not the members of the legislature or the Congress. Parliamentary form of government. As the Prime Minister is the leader of the majority party in the parliament, there is proper coordination between the legislature and the executive. Presidential form of government. As two separate elections are held for electing the president and to elect members of Congress, so the president may not belong to the party that gets majority in the Congress. Parliamentary form of government. The parliament has full control over the government, and if the prime minister loses majority, his government has to resign. Presidential form of government. As in USA, Congress has no control over the president. As such, he cannot be easily removed during his tenure. It is also called the congressional system. Different forms of a democratic government. Democratic government in itself can be of different forms. There can be a parliamentary form of government and a presidential form of government. They can be classified in another way as well as the unitary and federal forms of government. let us know about the unitary and federal form of government. Unitary form of government has the following characteristics. The center is stronger than the states. The center is given more powers than the states. There are certain emergency provisions in this type of government when the central government can take all the powers of the states. Even residuary powers vest with the center, not with the states. The center is given an edge on subjects mentioned in the concurrent list. The center has more financial control than the states. All this gives greater weightage to the center. Federal form of government has the following characteristics. As in USA, the residuary power belongs to the center rather than to the states. There is an independent judiciary to decide the cases between the center and the states. The constitution is both rigid and written. There is clear division of power between the center and the states. Both are independent in their own spheres. Formal equality. In a democracy, all citizens, irrespective of their caste, creed, color, or faith, are equal. All public offices are open for all. That is why democracy is preferred to a dictatorial government where all powers are in the hands of the ruling class and people have to bear the pangs of discrimination at every step. There is no denying the fact that there are some significant elements that continue to make democracy popular in the contemporary world. The chief among them are government, people have the freedom to express their opinion fearlessly, while in a dictatorial government, people are not free. They must act according to the dictates of the rulers. Decision-making mechanism. In a democracy, government is not run according to the whims of the rulers. There is a definite decision-making mechanism which is in the hands of the people. The people elect their representatives who form the legislature or the parliament, which passes various laws according to which the country is governed. The majority party or parties in the parliament forms or form the government which governs the country according to the will of the people. If any government fails to serve the people, it can later be changed in the next elections. Active participation of the citizen. In a democracy, every citizen can stand as a candidate for any post. He can become a minister, even prime minister or president, if he can muster majority. But such a thing is not possible in a dictatorship where one is always at the mercy of the dictator and is not the master of his fate. That is why people hate dictatorship, and that is why democracy has become popular in the modern world. Accommodation of differences. In a democracy, nothing is imposed on the people. The people of their representatives can express their differences freely. There are opposition parties or parties in the legislature which oppose or expose the government at every point. It is the spirit of give and take and the spirit of accommodation which makes it popular in the modern world. No doubt, democracy is based on majority rule. If any bill is to be passed, it must get the support of more than 50% of the legislature. Otherwise, it cannot be passed. But democracy is based on tolerance and accommodation. Otherwise, it will become a majority dictatorship. Differences, if any, between the majority and the minority, or between the government and the opposition, are settled amicably. The golden rule of live and let others live is mostly followed in a democracy. That is why democracy has become very popular in the modern world. Enhancing human dignity. It is only in a democracy that liberty, equality, and fraternity, for which the French revolutionaries laid down their lives, can be ensured. In a democracy, not only political liberty is ensured, but all efforts are made to ensure economic liberty as well, so that nobody remains poor and feels the pangs of hunger. For such economically backward people, a certain percentage of posts are reserved so that they can live with dignity. Enhancing human dignity is possible only in democracy. That is why democracy has become popular in the contemporary world.